Hey everyone, Prince Dabslot here, and today I'm going to be talking about the Delta Green scenario, Victim of the Art. Now this can be either bought standalone or is found inside the Dead Drops Compendium. I see this scenario recommended quite a bit as a introduction scenario, and while I enjoyed running this, I definitely had some problems with it, so hopefully by doing this video, you can see what kind of issues I ran into and how you can fix those. So in this scenario, 3 mysterious bodies have been found murdered. And your agents will generally be trying to solve the mystery with those bodies, which is a very good introduction as to the ins and outs of police investigation work that your agents will be expected to do time and time again in Delta Green. So without too much further ado, we're going to be going into this scenario and going over the spoiler limit. So if you think this scenario would be good for your group and you're a handler, keep on watching. If you're a player, send it to your handler. And if these videos help you out, hit me with a like and subscribe. You know, a like a day keeps the Illigor away. So without too much further rambling, let's continue. So the setup for the scenario is going to have 3 victims killed by the Glenridge chiropractor because their spines and skull have been ripped out of them and their bodies are found in various strange places, on top of a tree, on a telephone line. Very odd stuff. And you have a good mix here of police investigation that have already done a lot of work as your agents are kind of coming in behind the ball in this police investigation. You have some legitimate news outlets covering this every step of the way. And my favorite, Phenomena X, that are on the scene harassing the investigators. So I actually really do enjoy the faction play here in this scenario, and I think your agents will as well, especially when later Blue Fly gets introduced. So you have multiple factions running around, doing their own thing while you're just trying to solve a really good mystery. So the 3 victims in this scenario are a dentist, a librarian, and a cheerleader. So it's a very interesting mix of 3 people. And the first change right off the bat is I made the cheerleader be discovered as the agents arrived in town, and that kind of let them get in on the initial investigation, get ahead of the police, get ahead of the reporters, and of course you have Phenomenex roll up to that scene, start harassing people. So I like setting it as they show up because, again, it really gets your agents into the police mindset mood, how they can stall official investigations while running their own secondary investigations is what's happening. Maybe they fuck around with the crime scene, maybe they obscure evidence, because there is some weird stuff like some gray goo being found at these crime scenes. Obviously the bodies look like they've been dropped from an airplane onto a high point, onto a treetop or electrical wires, or even in the field, just falling from a great height. And so coming to this crime scene, what I would recommend is having your agents kind of split duties. And this is a great way of, again, teaching them how Delta Green works both as a system and in universe. As, you know, one agent can go and handle the news media and they can get all the reports out and they can redirect the media, while another one is redirecting the police officers down maybe some false leads or getting them away from seeing the creepy stuff. Then you have another agent, you know, going with the coroner's office and making sure that the coroner is working with them and also not revealing too much to the news media or the police. And then you could have a fourth actually investigating the crime scene. So I think it's a good way of splitting your party and making everyone feel pretty useful and kind of covering all the bases and showing that this is not just a crime scene investigation, this is a cover-up and your agents are involved in the cover-up. One more thing about the investigation, and that is the idea that I'm not a cop. None of my players are cops. But we all have seen a lot of media about police investigations, and this is kind of where I think Delta Green exists. You can either go as granular with it as you want, or you can go as kind of movie logic as you want. And I think it's all about striking a happy medium with your players and the table, because you're going to want your players to be involved in this police investigation more than the scenario might suggest, as they kind of work to cover up, maybe work to doctor evidence, maybe work to break in and change and remove the goo scene and restage some photos and stuff like that, which my agents did, because they want to delete any evidence of the unnatural, which the coroner has found, which the police have found. They're here to get rid of it or explain it away, which they certainly want to try. So you're going to want to kind of angle this large-scale police investigation because, much like, I don't know, something like The Wire, there will be a lot of news media and a lot of people in this supposed serial killer that's striking this nice upscale town. And you're going to want to play off that angle as much as you can. And yeah, it might extend the scenario longer than you might like and require some ad-libbing of that. But that's going to be a good central source of conflict, is how your agents wrangle the police and the media and how they insert themselves into this investigation and steer it away from the unnatural. And once they get past this first initial crime scene, one thing that's important that I think the scenario kind of hints at but doesn't really show is that there's this whole thing about requisitions in Delta Green, and those are worth reading up on if you're a handler. I find a lot of times that myself, especially when I started playing this game and when I played it with other people, I see kind of a general hand wave a little bit of requisitions, and official requisitions can save your agents' lives and help investigations. So it's definitely worth reading up on. Remember, they get some when they make a squad, they get some requisitions to spend. They can spend bonds, they can spend their own money. There's a lot of really cool stuff they can purchase and acquire, and their handler can pull it for them. And again, this shows that they can call in a helicopter flight to and from, counts as a major expense. But for this scenario, I would really recommend stopping and telling your agents how requisitions work and encouraging them to use it, because that's how they get weapons, that's how they get intel, and it's such a cool system of Delta Green that, again, it's hand waved sometimes. So it's absolutely worth reading up on, becoming familiar with it, because it might be a little funky, and letting your agent shop around, because they're going to use some of the shopping to help assist them with this investigation. And again, they can use it to get flights to and from places to get intel quicker. So your agents are also going to find themselves working with this FBI liaison, which is kind of an interesting split. There's two different characters here, where there's going to have the case handler that's going to assign them the mission, and then there's this FBI liaison, Thomas Carson, who's going to work with them and help get them involved with the FBI proper. And what I did is actually combine these two characters, because I found that it's really nice to have a reoccurring character being your case handler, and not just be, oh, it's your case handler, wave it off. By having your case handler be a strong character in the mix and helping out your agents, it can really introduce a great dynamic of the case handler helping out your agents, because oftentimes I find that case handlers are kind of played a little too antagonistic towards your agents. And I understand there's compartmentalization. You're not going to want to be involved. They want to keep information to hush hush zero. But I found that case handlers are usually ex-agents or the like, so they're going to want to help out your agents and supply them with things. I mean, look at the whole requisitions thing like I just talked about. The case handler can provide your agents with things and FBI information, so I combined these two characters and made my handler Thomas Carson, which was cool because he was a recurring character in other missions, and it's good to have that relationship with your case handler of someone that knows that they're in the shit with your agents and that they're all following the singular goal of stopping and covering up what's occurring here. So the next section actually gives some details on how your handler / Carson can help your team. And one is in fact getting them lore from the creatures. So I actually made a little text dump here, which I'm about to cut to. So what I did here for the text dump was I actually took some entries from the handler's guide. Then I just went through and censored a ton of passages through them, one of which was about the flying servitor, or the monster in this scenario. And that really was fun, and I basically hinted at upcoming future scenarios. I even took shotgun scenarios as inspiration and wrote up little debriefs about what happened in these shotgun scenarios, much like the one about the bomb on the mountain, which I'll link to in the description. And that was just really cool to hint of some scenarios that happened. I hinted about the PX poker night that my agents previously took, not the agents, but my players previously took place in, as a great way to hint of upcoming future scenarios. I included a bunch of stuff about Nyarlathotep here. And again, just go through with a heavy Sharpie and just Sharpie out most of the things, just enough to really hint at some lore here, some good text dumps. Kind of think of it like reading an SCP entry. And that was really fun and a good way of hinting at some future operations and some past ones. Then the investigation begins proper. Now, this is actually a fairly easy investigation, and it's a fair one. It's safe, as the true killer of these people is the Ali Appa. It's a monster that is linked to an amulet that a teenager has, and this teenager isn't realizing that he's killing people. In fact, these are all three people that he's had bad experiences with, and his subconsciously, when he's sleeping, is summoning this monster to go kill them. It's like a great sacrifice, and that's really where this scenario cooks, and its central premise. I find it's a little memed on in the community, but this is definitely one of those, oh, you have to kill the person or figure out a way to do it, because it's pretty sad where this kid isn't realizing that he's murdering these people. And so what are your agents going to do about it once they figure out that this kid is in charge, whether he likes it or not? If they piss off the kid, then he's going to summon the thing without realizing it against the agents, which is a good angle to play up here. And again, do they just shoot him from a car from the street? Like, that's a possibility. You really want to play up the moral dilemma of, oh, this kid is involved and he's not even aware of it, because that's where this scenario lives. So as far as the actual investigation, though, it is pretty straightforward, but I did include a scene of my agents breaking into the school and getting some security footage of showing from the outside of the body falling from the sky, which the police missed. And that can kind of hint that something's dropping them, because they were kind of on the Phenomenex train where it's like, it's aliens. And I guess it kind of is. Given that this investigation is A, fairly straightforward and any competent team of agents should be able to put together the clues, and B, safe. The monster won't get involved with your agents until they, piss off the handler of the artifact, the kid. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to play up complications. So Phenomenex is a floating NPC. The cool thing about Phenomenex is they can be as aggressive or not aggressive as your table demands. If your agents are burning through the content and you really want to gum up the works, then Phenomenex is here. And they are not the Phenomenex of the past. They are pretty amateur. They're hastily installing tracking on your agent's cars that's easily discovered, but they are here to gum up the works and to really try and catch your agents out and slipping. And again, if your agents are really struggling with this investigation and not doing too well, then way off the gas for the Phenomenex. But they were involved in the climax of my scenario, which I implemented, and they were a good reoccurring group throughout my campaigns, even in scenarios that don't bring it up. Phenomenex is a fantastic group to introduce here and then to have reintroduced later down the line as just this constant nitpicking annoyance, which is how they're featured in a lot of the lore and a lot of the actual novels. So you're kind of feeding into this reoccurring group of troublemakers that is so close to the truth and they don't even realize it. Another faction that I didn't use, but I really regret not using in retrospect, is Coral Nomad. So while they might seem a little weird and a little tertiary when you're reading this initially, I think it does a great job of showing that the program is kind of at the beck and call currently of March tech, and March sucks. I mean, they are basically Majestic from the 90s pulled into the modern day, with the program kind of working alongside them far more than the old Delta Green would have liked. And I like the idea that Carson is also kind of against this. Your handler's kind of against this, but he's at the whim of his higher-ups in the program. And the idea, it kind of turns this in from capture the artifact and turn it over, which is what they're trying to do, but also kind of a bug hunt in the way that this group kind of wants to kill the thing and neutralize it and seal it as well. And so it kind of can give your agents another complication that will extend the scenario by a little bit and kind of increase its pulpability and its playability with your team of, hey, do we just go for the artifact and get the kid and, separate him from the artifact and get it and then pass it over? Or do we try and get him to summon this monster? Do we try and summon this monster and then kill it and capture it? Which, if you've seen anything about how lethal this monster is, could go horribly wrong, but it is doable. So I definitely regret not doing this, and it is something I think you should do if you're running this. Additionally, if you're running this game in the 90s, which I could absolutely see working really, really well, I would have this group be Majestic and played more antagonistically versus your group of Delta Green agents kind of on the run from both Majestic and this monster. When your agents get close to Thomas, that's when the scenario heats up because of several reasons. A, I had the father be fairly antagonistic to my agents, as in he needed all the proper paperwork and everything in place. My agents actually faked being an EPA specialists coming in to investigate a groundwater leak occurring in their backyard. So it was kind of a good face-off of them doctoring all these documents about how they're official and they need to be here, along with the father being suspicious and getting a lawyer and demanding that they don't talk to his kid without a proper lawyer. Because his father is smart and has a lot of money and influence he could throw behind things, while the mom kind of let them go in and get away with it. So it was kind of a fun guessing game of getting him away from the father and getting him with the mother so they could get in and interview him. And Thomas is pretty straightforward about like the amulet and his grandfather working on archaeological sites and where he's going to pull that from. But he is going to be pretty protective of this amulet himself, so he's not just going to hand it over to agents. And once your agents interact with Thomas, they are now in the line of fire. Because if they're super antagonistic, the monster is going to come at them instantly. If not, I kind of like to play up the monster hunting them angle because it's a cool one. And he's subconsciously doing it, where even if he's friendly with these agents, he's subconsciously aware that there's something coming at him, that these agents are hunting him. So therefore, the Aliapa is going to turn and start to hunt down the agents. And that's what I did, is I had the Aliapa start appearing, even one even tried to attack the agents before they ran away and got away. So you're going to want to play off that angle once Thomas is discovered. And after that, again, it's not really about it being Thomas or not. It's about what they're going to do about it. One of my issues with this scenario, I see it recommended a lot for new handlers as, oh, this is the one to learn all about investigations and clue work here, but it kind of lacks a climax, which it even says in the text, and it's kind of, oh yeah, make it up, your agents will figure it out. That doesn't really jive for me. So what I had to do is I planned for something cool to happen. So my agents had this harebrained scheme, which only a group of deranged agents could think of, where they planned a fake science fair, a fake archaeology festival, to drag in Thomas and his father in like an old abandoned warehouse that they made looking nice, and they invited him as a guest of honor. Even made up fake banners and fake mailing brochures and stuff, while another one of my agents was online catfishing this kid over Facebook and kind of told him, oh, I'm going as his crush, and oh yes, we're gonna be there, and come meet and hang out with me. And basically, as soon as they arrived, my agents black bagged them and drag them inside, along with Phenomenex showing up right at the incorrect time, as they had tracking devices on the agents' cars as they set up here. And when this happened and they grabbed the amulet from Thomas and yanked it from him, and what I had that severed the connection between Thomas and this amulet. And you know what that's going to bring? That's going to bring the Aliapa there to consume Thomas. And it was a great scene of them hearing something thump on the roof, it peel back the roof like a tin can, it rushing in, and they were gunning it down, trying to kill it. They did some good damage to it, but all it did was, I think it raked the father, and then it grabbed Thomas and dragged him to another dimension where they never saw him again. And that was a really interesting ending that I think you want to do something kind of explosive and climactic like that. And so I think the idea of, as soon as the amulet is separated from Thomas, much like that agent grabbed it and kind of like took control of it, the Aliapa recognized the new owner and went and showed up and killed Thomas. And that kind of led to some interesting things of, oh, Phenomenex was there, and Phenomenex like saw it, so they proceeded to knock out Phenomenex. And one of my agents was a chemist, so she dosed Phenomenex with an insane amount of LSD that she manufactured and procured, dumped them outside of town like it was some LSD trip gone wrong. They also chopped up the father and dumped his body in the bay, and they hid a bunch of evidence that the father was actually involved in this drug trade, and the father was the true serial killer, because that's where a lot of the heat of this scenario comes in as well, where agents actually have to present a logical answer to these murders. And I think that's not really focused on too much, but that needs to be a big part of, if you're running this, is your agents need to stand up at the end of the day after everything they've done to hide these murders, to cover everything up. They need to find someone to blame and to find someone to tell, oh, yes, this person was a serial killer, and they need to throw someone under the worst bus imaginable, which they did. They murdered the father to hide everything. They super dosed the Phenomenex crew and dumped them outside of town after breaking all the tapes and evidence they had of their team's investigation here. And it was pretty tragic and pretty sad, but man, what a great ending to an interesting scenario that really needed that fire ending. And in the end, yes, they did hand the artifact over to Coral Nomad, which to me was just the handler. I wish it would have implemented the full Coral Nomad, but what I did do is then my agent, without realizing, was also unwittingly connected to this artifact, even as it got separated from him and dumped in a warehouse somewhere. And what I had to do is, in home scenes, I asked him, who were you most annoyed with over the course of time? Was it your boss? Do you have a really bad argument with your ex-wife, with whoever? And they always mysteriously disappeared. And that was a really fun little thing where my agent slowly realized that he was still connected to this power, even though he couldn't actually get the artifact anymore or use it willingly. Just whoever he was most annoyed at, most pissed off at in his dreams, was then soon disappearing and getting murdered. And just a way of showing that the horrors continue even when your agents aren't on the mission. And that's going to be Victim of the Art. Again, I see this one recommended all the time as intro scenario, and while I'm glad I ran it for how evocative the cover art is and how interesting it kind of sets itself up to be, I really found that it fell flat in the ending, and I didn't really love the hand wave of your agents will figure it out, you should figure it out. And I agree, this scenario required quite a bit of ad-libbing in ways that I wasn't super on top of when it was supposed to be happening. Has a lot of faction play here that you might not be expecting to occur. So those are things you just need to be aware of and be prepared for when walking into this scenario, because it really has the potential of being a great investigative introduction for your agents and their team, especially going into the expense system and meeting their handler and doing all this. If you're going to run this scenario, definitely go all in and run it fully. Again, when your agents run into Thomas, that's when the monster starts hunting them, because otherwise this scenario is actually pretty safe and there's pretty fair, and there's nothing your agents can really do to die or get in danger. So as soon as they start to contact Thomas, even talk to him, I would have the Aliapa on their ass every night, and it kind of introduces a good ticking clock angle that's not here other than the media pressure and some potential future murders that might occur. So definitely play up that angle. If they talk to Thomas, the Aliapa should be scary. They should just get hints of it. Should be flying above, flashing in the clouds and lightning. Whatever you want to do to play up the fact that this monster is stalking them, hunting them. Because this monster, it's smart. It's not just there to mindlessly show up and kill someone. It's smarter than us. It's smarter than your agents. It's aware, and it's possible to stalk them and figure out the best time to get them alone and separated. And one last time talking about the Coral Nomad aspect. Again, seems tertiary. I see a lot of people say don't use it, but I really think you should, especially once you're aware of the overall ecosystem that Delta Green, the program, Phenomena X, and Majestic 12, plus March Technologies play in the whole ecosystem of this RPG. And I think this scenario has some great ideas to kind of start that web, start that string. You should be talking about March Technology. You should just hint at this great web of deception that your agents are simply pawns in, which isn't really talked about in this fully, but if you're going to run this, I would definitely recommend reading up on the Handler's Guide as far as the Schism and March Technologies go, so you can kind of understand the angle that's being shot here. And that's going to be it from me. Thanks everyone for watching and listening to me talk about this scenario. If you want to pick it up, I have the ArcDream Publishing link and the DriveThruRPG link. The DriveThruRPG link, I am affiliate, so I'll receive 10% towards my DriveThruRPG account, so maybe one day I can afford that copy of Red Markets I've been eyeballing. But I appreciate everyone that's been watching this and subscribing and sharing in the community. I can't believe I've almost hit 400 subscribers, and I'm so thankful for everyone that's been so friendly in the comments and on the Reddit posts. So thanks again.